Can I have a motion to go into executive session?
Absolutely.
First by Bob, second by Todd. All in favor? Okay, shows 6 in favor, none opposed. We will move into executive session.
Just reaching out to the public quick that are viewing. Our start time is 7 o'clock. It's 7:02. We are going to be starting a couple minutes later. We start executive session, and at the end of it, a couple members had to run down the hall, and the second they're back, we will begin. In fact, they're walking in now, so we're going to turn it over to Jim.
Welcome to the Iroquois Central School District Board of Education meeting. There are two recognition of guest periods, one for agenda-related comments and the other for other topics. Please refrain from personal related comments and address those to the appropriate administrator. To speak, fill out the proper form and submit it to the district clerk. Public comment is limited to 15 minutes total, with each speaker allowed up to 3 minutes. This meeting is held in public rather than a public meeting, and while we won't engage in dialogue tonight, we are listening. The meeting is live streamed and the recording will be posted online. Everyone please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, we're going to move to board discussion and news we're sharing. For the voting delegate for the NYSBA, Heather Becker, I did talk to her. She is willing to do it, unless anyone wants to fight her for it.
No.
Okay. I actually did talk to her. Okay, now we'll get into the heart of our board meeting. This is where, what presentations does the board want to see for this year? I know one of them, that we're going to talk about is, doing the school report card and breaking up by buildings. So that will be a presentation, and I believe we'd start with that in October.
So I looked at it because I knew there was a primary building goals and data, and primary would be one meeting, intermediate would be another, middle school would be a third, high school would be a fourth, a fifth one would be district data. So if we started in October, because we also have to look to when the state releases the data, and as I look at Mary Jo, because she's the one who really monitors and looks at this, if we were to do the primaries in October, because we have students that would be coming here for the pledge, principals would be here, then intermediate in November, because they would be here doing the pledge. Middle school would be in January because they're doing the report, and then high school would be in December. So it would go primary, intermediate, high school, middle school for the months of October, November, December, January, and then we could look at the entire district data. And Mary Jo will mention about districts we look at. We don't use other districts' names. You'll hear them now of who we look at to make sure the board agrees with them. But when we present data, we number them. 1, 2, 3, I'm doing okay. She's nodding her head, giving me permission. We do 1, 2, 3, so we will know where we are in our results with those, because I think it's also important to see how we're progressing, but how are we progressing towards like places?
So right now, the state has released our own 2025 data. However, they said it will not be finalized until like the second week of September. So there may be changes to it. So right now we have some cursory information, but that's it. In the past, the districts that we have looked at our data with are districts about 15 or 16. We have Alden, Amherst, Cheektowaga Central, Cheektowaga Maryvale, Depew, East Aurora, Lakeshore, Frontier, Grand Island, Hamburg, Lackawanna, Lancaster, Orchard Park, Sweet Home, West Seneca, and Williamsville. As Doug said, that when that presentation is done later in the year, we would not have their names listed in the presentation. Instead, they would be numbered so that
To respect them.
to respect them.
And is there any on there you would say, oh no, we don't need, and she can read them again, this district, or we would like to add this district? Because this is really our decision of who we want to look at, and how we look at them is districts around us, close, that border us, districts that are about our size, districts same social economic. Sometimes it's districts that just people always talk about. You know, like Williamsville was on the list. They're not our size. They don't border us. Same social economic, but they're so much larger. They're different. But we think that's a very valid one to compare ourselves to.
Before the first building gets reviewed, is there any way we could maybe spend a short period of time on getting a 10,000-foot view as to what the data is not telling us, but like what it's measured on, where they get the data from, just working knowledge so that we all understand what we're looking at?
Sure, so if I'm hearing you correctly, the difference between what a school report card looks at when New York State publishes that information in comparison to when we talk about, say, something like Ames Web.
Yes.
Okay.
Are you asking, the question I have, are you asking to understand what's in the school report card or to see a little bit of the data beforehand?
Like, I mean, can anyone around the table, board member-wise, know that they have seen a school report card and understand at a 10,000-foot level what it's trying to tell us?
I haven't seen either, so I'd actually like knowledge on both.
Yeah. Because then, I mean, at least when the buildings are presenting to us, we understand what we're looking at. I guess that's the point.
And that's why I asked is if it's just what is in it compared to the data and comparing and contrasting data, we could do something of just here's what's in it, what they look at, but not compare data over the last 15 years, 10 years or whatever. Then when you're looking at over years, you would understand where it's coming
I
from.
think and I don't put words in Heather's mouth, is I'm just gonna, like, in September, that Mary Jo would give you the 50,000-foot overview. This is what's contained in the school report card, not informational data. This is what it looks at, how many red chairs and blue chairs you have. So then when we get to starting receiving the data in October, that we kind of know what we're looking at. And the one thing I did talk to Keith and I talked to Doug extensively about is, so when we get to October and the primaries are going to present, that, you know, a week or two ahead of time, that information is in our email, so we can go through it. So we're not seeing it for the first time in presentation that way, because there may be 200 data points and only 5 of them we feel the need to discuss, because we'll have that information ahead of time. Like, once again, if it was you have 200 blue chairs and 50 red chairs, it's not going to be a discussion point. But those are the 2 points that I want to bring up. Is that what you're kind of saying? Okay.
If I could just one point of clarification, especially when it comes to the primary. When we talk about the primary schools, the school report card really only comes out for the 3rd grade students. So what we would probably be doing is also including Ames Web, which is fine, but I just want to be prepared so that in September, I have that information for you.
Yeah, and like I said, there's the September would just be like the overview of it.
Overview.
And then October, send it
No
to.
actual data, but
Right.
this is what it is.
And then just make sure in October before the meeting, and not like a
Yep.
day, you know, that we can get it so we can look at it and kind of digest it. And I think Heather's point is when we get that data, if we have the overview, we can understand and interpret it.
You got it.
Yep.
Sure.
The one thing I want to say, Jim, you said a week or two ahead of time. Typically, the board agenda comes out to the board the Friday before the meeting. That would be a change then in that for that data.
I think the data, I mean, I guess.
And that's why I just want to nail down
I'm
the
sorry.
date the board expects.
It's our meeting. What do you guys think? I mean, I'm talking changing the agenda is fine, but I think I would like the data maybe at least a week before,
A week before?
so we can actually, you know, look at it and read it.
Yep, I just want to, a week or two, and then I sent it out 8 days ahead. People say you missed both of them. It's not a week, and it's not 2 weeks.
I was
so
testing you,
a
Doug.
week.
I knew you were going to clarify that point.
So a week before.
A week's fine, yeah.
Okay.
Can we have it in Latin and English?
Yeah, your computer will interpret it. Ahead of time.
And then is the other,
I'm sorry, just to clarify
Yeah, because you're a
that.
week ahead of time of this. I will want it from like administrators a week before that, so I just got to make sure I have the right flow going through.
Is everyone okay with, at the end of the school, when I present on the comparable districts, were you all good with those districts, number one? And our plan is usually 5 years back, and especially with COVID, that would work out that would be a nice cut point. We do have some new exams in there, but
Yeah, I think 5 years is enough, I mean,
okay.
to look at some historical trends.
I mean,
Is there a traditional, and again, I don't know, so.
Sure.
COVID changes it, like for high school, we used to do, I'll say 10 for Regents exams, but COVID has changed everything, so I would think you kind of start with the 5, and then next year might be 6, and then next year might be 7.
there were,
Yeah.
yeah.
I tend to like 10, because you can get 5 out of 10. But I think, start with 5. Typically, when we did this, always, it was 10 years, but I think right now, starting with 5 is where to go because of the change with COVID and everything. It
There-
just,
there were-
it wouldn't be appropriate data. People didn't take the tests weren't required, there'd be blank spaces and so on.
Well, I mean,
Any reason to look at I mean, both, like, so we could chunk them into two, like pre-COVID, like,
Could I?
changed by this percentage.
I don't think so, because the Regents exams have all changed in the last 5 years, and they will continue to change. So, for example, we now have brand-new Regents exams in global, in US, in living environment, in Algebra 1, and Earth Science. ELA is going to be next year. Next year will be physics and chemistry. It's just, and you can't compare the two exams. They're just that different.
I think it's fair, we can start with the 5, and then, I mean, we could revisit it if there's something, a trend or something we want to see. But we still have, more months here to fill, so what other presentation information would the board like to see?
But interrupt real quick, we do have 2, the guidance department and the special education. At the bottom 2 there in red, mandatory, that we need to do. So if we already have September, October, November, December, January, those would be February.
Okay.
And remember, once you hit like January, February, March, April, May, you also are going to be having John talking to us about the budget at meetings. So if we're up to January, February, now March, what would you like to see in March? And I have a list of things, like cell tower is one I want to ask about. We were approached by a group that would entertain putting a cell tower here on property. They would want it over by the bus garage, which means you can determine how visually appealing that would be to have a cell tower there. Revenue, I'll say, is anywhere from $800 to $1,000 a month. Is that worth it for us at Iroquois to have a cell tower on the grounds for that much money?
Is this something you're asking us for right now?
Oh, do you want to have a discussion on it? Because if you don't have a discussion on it, we would not move forward. If you want to have a discussion on it, then there's a possibility.
That's
of
for
moving
today
forward.
then, right?
Not having a discussion today, do we want to try to schedule it somewhere?
Schedule a meeting, or schedule it.
Schedule a time to discuss it. Yeah, and if you don't want it,
Fast-moving process.
right, and if you say, well, right now I'm hearing the money and I don't want to look at it, I don't want to talk about
Okay.
it. And if you say, no, I don't mind looking at it and I'd like some money, we will talk about it.
So I guess around the table, are you interested at all?
We can talk about it in March. Because
Yeah.
it makes sense for coverage. I mean, we're just talking about like
Right.
an emergency.
Yeah.
But my point is, just like with all the crap that goes on in the world now, if you got a tower there, you're gonna have maximum signal, so all these kids, or whoever gets on a signal and they start pulling from it, it might not be the worst thing to have a cell tower there.
You're not
Right.
going to win class president after you took away all their cell phones and then we gave them a tower.
But it will help SROs and school resource officer administrators.
Well, we can discuss
So,
it in March.
We'll say March. John will get back to the company, see if that meets in their timeline. They might say that's too far out. And they might want to move it. If they want to move, if they say it has to be by a certain month, we'll come back to the board and you might have to have 2 presentations.
That's fine. We can,
Okay.
that works. What else do you have on your?
Building results, goals. I don't know, I guess I would say look at them and see, like, review of policies. I don't, that's something we've done, I don't think you need it at this point. You just, had a meeting with a lawyer and talked about policies, procedures, and we do a little bit of policies every day. Board self-evaluation and goals, is there something you'd want to do with that? Maybe June?
Well, Jim, last year we had work sessions sprinkled in throughout the month of board meetings, so
that
could-
is, a possibility. I
If
think
some of these fall into
we
that.
could do that, yeah.
Yeah.
I guess now it's just to get a feeling, and if
Okay.
there's like 9 things, no, but if there's more, then we could do them in work sessions. This is just to get the feeling of what, we'd like to see.
Right,
The new graduation requirements, I think,
I
is
think
pretty
that's-
important
yeah.
to have sooner than later.
We could do that in April.
Okay.
I mean, because it's not going to change, really, the testing doesn't change for like another 3 years, so it's not something that has to be done tomorrow. So April for that one.
And keep in mind, there will be things that'll come up during the year when you'll say, hey, Jim, can we discuss this on the agenda? That
And right
we don't know.
under new graduation, building results and goals, there should be instead of building, it should be district, but that would be Mary Jo presenting that in February, because that would be right after, whichever one, middle school was last, right after the schools. School budget,
That's gonna be when it always is.
that would kind of be January through May, not every month, but
Yeah, that's,
2 or 3 we have in there. Strategic plan, do you want to do anything more with that at this point?
I think that's something that we just we did some stuff with it. You changed it a little bit. I think it,
I'm working on changing
Right.
it with administrators.
right, so I think until that happens, discussing it is kind of pointless until,
Right, which is an interesting point in changing it. I was asked a question, I don't remember by who earlier, because we were talking about things and we were talking about data a lot. I love that the board wants to go back and look at data more. In the current and strategic plan, there's nothing about instruction, and the fact that this board wants to get stuff about instruction in there, which would come back to data, I want to commend you and thank you. I know Mary Jo has been, walking around on cloud 9 for about 2 months now that you wanted that. So, April strategic plan.
One item, Doug, that I didn't see here is, I know we spent a lot of time last year on the reading program. I would be interested, and I'm not sure what the board feels about, getting some level of update on how we're doing, right? What does that actually look like?
You will be getting you will be getting a little something that Mary Jo gave me for the Friday memo,
Okay.
and that would be included with primary. Go ahead.
Correct. And what I was planning on doing is probably when we talk about the data, especially at the primary level, again, because there is only a grade 3 assessment there, the Ames Web will really speak to the progress we're making. So we can weave it into that primary presentation.
Okay. I would only caution, that is a pretty big program that has altered over years. I just want to make sure we have the right time, space to unpack what we've done. What are the leading indicators? What could be lagging indicators? Those are the pieces I want to make sure that we touch on. Fine bringing it into the primary discussion, but there may be other topics within the primary that are equally as important. So,
Right, and that's where we can add it, because I think math is equally important.
Yep.
So, therefore, we can always, please don't think we're always locked into this.
Yep.
We can modify it and change as the year goes on.
What I would, if it's okay with you, is maybe do the initial within that primary meeting, but if you need more information, we could, as Doug said, modify another one.
Yeah, that's fair. I mean, I don't want to get too far ahead, but yeah, if that would be, that'd be reasonable.
Right.
Great.
So I would say then strategic plan May, zero emission buses, I would say as needed.
Yeah.
right, because there's no update.
John, no update?
We're charging them as we speak. No, we don't have, we don't have any. So public, that was a joke. We do not have any public. I know how you feel. We don't have any. SROs, the Sandy Hook Promise, that's that anonymous reporting. Did you want to hear from the school resource officers this year?
I think my response to that, if there is something to report, yes. If it's just, hey, we're all doing good and we've had 3 reports and we don't want just like a presentation on nothing. If there's something of importance, because that's such an important topic, yes.
Okay.
But not just.
So as needed, and if you
Yeah.
hear something, you want something, let us know.
Yeah.
The NISBA resolutions, we get to sit through that September 17th. What I would remind the board while we're sitting here with Heather Becker going, is that look through them ahead of time. There's a lot of them, and please don't talk about every single one. Is that fair to say, Jim? Pick the ones you say, you know,
Yes.
I disagree with what NISBA wants, thinks it's something they should advocate for. I disagree with NISBA. If you agree with everything NISBA says, good. But the ones you disagree, let us
Yes,
know.
and please keep in mind on those, that those are the only resolutions that have been endorsed by NISBA. Other districts can add ones whenever they want. And there's, what is there, 800 districts or 867?
700, say roughly 700.
So those are voted on by 700 people. So a lot of them, end up going nowhere. So I would look through them, if there's like maybe one or two or three that you think, this is horrible, or this is amazing. Those are what I would bring back, because, like I said, that was a meeting that goes on for 12 hours, or 10 hours. And you just won't get through all of them, and most of them are just going nowhere. So that's what I would focus on.
All right, then we have AI in school. With how full we are with everything, I think it's something the board should be aware of, but I don't think it's something we need a huge presentation on. I think it's more important for teachers to start wrapping their heads around of how to do it than the board. Impact to New York State budget, that would be with John during budget stuff, during budget season, which just leaves the board self-evaluation and goals. If you don't want to change any from this year, you're good with where they are, we could just do that in June.
That is kind of what I would like to do. We just had some good training. We have, Henry's new. I would just want something to actually talk about at that point and reflect on. I just think that sitting here and pulling a goal out of the air doesn't really do anything. I still feel we have, we're going to continue to get better and more to go. We've come a long way, but I just think that would be a June thing to do.
And real quick, the goals of what they are, before you decide, support the superintendent in his accountability of implementing and achieving district goals and his superintendent goals. 2, achieve and engage our students, family, community members, and school staff to strive for continuous improvement of the district. And 3, strive to be a highly functioning cooperative school board.
I think, though, that because we didn't have the meeting in July, we never really had a proper discussion about this year's goals or retrospective on how we did last year as a board. So what's the plan to get that done?
And with the training, I would push it to June, or if it's something that we feel that we want to do, we could talk about scheduling a work session on that.
Because June's for,
Well, yeah, but I would
Yeah.
look at wrap up this year. But if it's something that, if we want to review this one, I think what I would do is I would get with the district clerk, and we could set a work session and see what's availability to go over those.
Okay.
I know, Heather, is that, you guys want to go over them?
Yeah, I think so, because, and to Heather's point, I appreciate you kind of bringing it up, right? Because we didn't really have our, the district planning session. It might be good to sort of have both, right? If we could have a working session a little bit earlier on, make sure that the topics are really concise, and then we can review it in June and kind of see how we're doing. Because it's tough to measure if we don't know, and especially with Henry coming on board, we don't want to wait too late, so I agree.
So we can keep the goals, and then Dawn, I will get with you, and we'll kind of pick a month and then some dates that make sense. Okay.
So we'll schedule for June for the following year and get a work session for this year.
Yep.
All right, I think that's everything with that.
Okay, so we move on
and
to.
just one other topic.
Okay.
I know Lucia, our student board member, is not here, but I don't know if we should engage her to see if there's anything that, I know she's not here, but was she going to give us a student report every month once
no,
school starts, or what are the
our-
expectations for her?
I'll say no, because when the board discussed having her on, it was not to have her give her a report of what's happening at the high school.
Right.
She's a board member. She has the same responsibilities as you. Our school reports will still be coming from the middle school and high school, every other board meeting from other students within the meeting. That would be a change of the role of what we saw as the member of the ex officio student.
Yeah, she's just here as any other board member. The only difference is if we're talking about, I'll just use this example, the presentations, to maybe give from a student's point of view, hey, I think we should really talk about this because it's something we may not be aware of.
Yeah, and I can reach out and ask her.
Yeah, with the absence of
I'll
her
get
not
the
being here,
list.
maybe just ask.
Yeah,
Yeah.
she had practice today.
Yeah.
And that's what we talked about with the student board member. We're gonna have to be very aware that they're students and they have homework and all that, so.
Yeah, she's here
School
next
started.
week. I will reach out to her and see if there's any topic that she would like to add, and I can get that
Okay.
out to the board.
Okay, we will, number 6, the superintendent report by,
Real quick, I
Superintendent.
do have one question for the board that we've been working on, because the goal is to have a board calendar where people can look at it and see where it is. And one thing we heard that's been causing this a problem is for other board members to see who is going to event with an RSVP. So there's a new program, since some of you are parents, you're aware of it, it's called Parent Square, would let us see RSVP, but it's also a new app that would be in there. I mean, from there, you can add whatever's in there to other calendars. But if we were to use Outlook, which you already have, keeping to the same program, everyone would get the invite automatically in their Outlook calendar. The Parent Square, you would get all these invitations. Everything, your inbox would be flooded with invitations for Parent Square. Whereas Outlook, you wouldn't have that flood of invitations. So which way would you rather go? You go with Outlook, the downside is you can't see, Jim and Keith are going to event. With Parent Square, you could see it. So that's the difference. And also the difference is the flood of emails coming in, you have to accept or reject ones you want to go to or don't go to.
my theory would be to go with the Outlook one, and then it's really an appropriate use of the district, the text message we're all on, is like, hey, Bob and I are going to the soccer game on Thursday, and then you guys would be like, oh, I'll go. I don't think we need to get 200 emails, because one of the things we want to do is pare this down so the emails we get are meaningful, and I think that's the best way to, because we'll know there's an event, and we can be, hey, Keith and I are going to the football game on Friday. Who's there? And you guys can be like, I'll go, or whatever it is, or the play, or whatever that is.
Yeah, and just to be clear to the board, we were not planning on inviting you to every sports home game. We would invite you to musicals and plays, because there's, I want to say 3 of those, 2 at the high school, 1 at the middle school.
Or art shows, or.
Art shows, things like that we would, but there's 57 teams, that's an awful lot of athletic events. We were not planning on, maybe Dawn disagrees with me, but we were not planning on doing athletic events, other things like PTO meetings, things like that.
What I would encourage for the athletic events are like the senior nights,
Senior nights.
or if it's a
yeah.
championship, those, or homecoming's
You know what I
pretty
mean by
easy.
Senior nights?
Yeah, but
For the
those are the
athletics.
ones that I think I'd want to know. If it was soccer's senior night, I'd want to know that.
Okay, so senior nights would be one for athletics that we would send out. Okay. So thank you. I'll look, go ahead.
The playoff, I think, is a good idea too.
Playoffs. Once the regular season is ended, all playoffs? Or just when they get, sectionals? At what level?
I would say, I know I just said about not too much, but I would say all playoffs.
So
The amount of teams that
any
go
game after the regular
Yeah,
season?
the amount of teams that go to sectionals are still quite rare.
Yeah, so after the regular season, any game? Okay. So the next thing I have is responses from last month's public comments. Really did not have one, but what I do have in there is a comment that came from administrators and the union. New teachers do portfolios, and the board sees those portfolios when we're going through the 10-year process. Both the administrators and the union think there's a lot of busy work in there that takes away from the new teachers having instruction. They have to check it. They would like those to be redone. So there's a lot more reflective and focus on instruction. It would be a change in what the board sees. Planning on going that direction because it supports instruction. Want to make sure the board's aware of that. So when you see the letters for the first-year teachers, second-year teachers, third-year and fourth-year teachers, it will look different than last year. Is there anyone that's like, ghastly? I mean, and we can always change and have discussions once we see it. We're going to develop that. Is that good with everyone? Okay. Just want to make sure. Kind of an administrative role anyways, but you do get to look at it. Recognitions. I want to start with Heather Becker, our own board member. because I do have a thank you, and I really had nothing to do with it except help organize it. But she became aware of an excess or surplus of chairs from an organization, and was able to get very nice chairs, over 100 of them, get tables. All the art rooms on the main campus have different tables, so we're getting all this out to people. She was highly instrumental. There was another graduate that works here, and his name escapes me. I think he graduated in 2002. I might be off on the year. And our grounds department made multiple runs to get this stuff. Other than paying for the gas and the labor, there was no cost to the district. And I'll say the chairs, estimately, were $500 chairs, each one of them. And we got hundreds of them. Oh, Mike, not you, Mike, use your mic. Your name's Bob, Mike.
I actually got to see all this stuff, and it was beautiful, brand new elevated workstations, the chairs, the tables, everything was awesome.
So thank you to her. Girls lacrosse, so this is from last spring. Avery and Gia. I knew I was going to get that wrong. I even made Mary Jo practice with me. First team, the boys lacrosse, Donovan. The girls flag football, Tierney. The offensive first team, Felicia. Defensive first team, Maya, Tierney, Claire. Boys baseball, Slade, Gavin. All Western New York. First team, Luke, Dominic, Carson, Slade, Alex, Gavin, Adam. And that's what I have for recognitions. So then I would move into the capital project. You should have hopefully seen and
Or
read.
maybe,
What?
what about the teachers of the year?
It's the Petrio's mailer.
Oh, I don't remember all their names because that was.
Colleen McCoy and Catherine Stavanovich.
Yes.
Stojo.
Catherine Stavanovich.
Well, I just said what my kids call her because they can't
Yeah,
pronounce
it was
the
kind
last
of a
name
cool
either.
thing that was mailed
Yeah,
in.
I thought that was amazing.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, and he comes and does that, and you know, I really appreciate him for coming in, but I more appreciate the teachers and what they do
Yeah.
to have that honor.
Absolutely.
That bus scratch presentation that they did, that was awesome.
Yeah, if you haven't seen it,
It was great.
the transportation, because they're looking for people for transportation drivers, and we'll talk about more later, John will, but we look like we're in good shape. We need subs for next year, but main drivers, we're in good shape. But they were very creative in what they did it, and when I was at the welcoming back for the drivers presentation, I want to remember what his name is. His real name is Frank, but Dave or whatever I had to call him in the video, it worked out well. Any other things for recognitions? Okay, the capital improvement project in the back to school newsletter, there was information referencing the capital project. Today is the seeker report. John will explain what the seeker is, and we'll have updates monthly in the superintendent reports till then. And John, at the end of this, will probably be asking to make sure the board is comfortable with where we're going, because you'll be voting on the official resolution in September, but we would like to start get the stuff out more to the public with the vote coming up in November. So I'm going to turn it over to John to give you updated information.
Beginnings of this were started last school year, 24-25 school year. The board at that time reviewed the building condition survey, which is a really comprehensive report of our facilities and where things stand. It puts things in priorities of what things need to be done in the next 5, 10, 20 years down the road. From that list, and knowing that we kind of have restrictions on how much work we can do, that report identifies hundreds of millions of dollars of work that could be done in the future to the buildings. But we know that we use capital reserves to do projects. We don't have a tax impact directly from these projects because we use the local fund capital reserve to kind of fund the local portion, and the rest of the funding comes from state aid. So Based on that building condition survey, we identified a $23 million project. We kind of captured the bullet points in the back-to-school newsletter, which is quickly summarizing Merla Primary, replacing steam boilers. These things date back to 1968, well beyond their useful life. Putting in new boilers, piping throughout the buildings, updating the control systems, and I'm sure we're going to see some gains with utilities and things like that when you replace systems that are this old. Wales Primary, same thing, replacing the boilers. Particularly more difficult there is that is a well water school district, school, which is the only one in our district that has well water. So it really eats away at our boilers and things like that and requires a lot of maintenance over the years. So those are well past their prime as well, dating back to, again, the 50s and 60s as well. We did get our use out of them. We replaced those tanks quite a bit over the years because they only last 5 to 10 years, and all the tanks have to be replaced because of the hard water. And at Wales, also replacing the roof system. The roof was installed in 1998, so it's approaching 30 years, so it's definitely a time for that. Along with that, we're going to add more drains, make sure the pitch is right on it, and try and get another 30 years out of the roof we install. At the high school, the upper two-story sections of the high school have been done recently within 5-10 years. But we're going to now look at the lower first level roof portions and replace those, which are, again, past their expected life. And then based on the quotes, that's a $23 million project. We hope quotes come in below what we think, and there's some money left over. And if we do, we have an alternate where we're replacing some electrical systems at the high school. Everything's original to that building, so we'd want to replace panels and outlets and everything and kind of revamp that whole system as well. As I said, it's going to be a no tax impact because we're using our capital reserves to finance the local portion of that project. Tonight at item 1702 is, again, we call it the SEQR, S-E-Q-R. That stands for State Environmental Quality Review. And that's the first thing you do with the project because we want to, as a state entity, we have to notify everyone around us, agencies around us, that we intend to do this work. And they have a chance to say they don't want it, or they have a chance to ask questions. They look at the environmental impact, obviously, but also economic impact on the area and social impact as well. And they have an opportunity, again, to say, to pose questions if they'd like. The important part that you're going to see in there, it's going to be called a negative declaration as part of that resolution tonight. That means no one's identified an adverse impact on anyone. So that's why we can go through with this and keep going. Negative declaration means there's no negative impact on anyone. So at the next meeting, that's when we'll put forth the proposition that the voters would vote on November 18th. And then we'd also formally approve the advertisement that we put out in the paper to be official with how we present this to the public. And what I'd like to know is if at that September 17th meeting, would you like a more in-depth look at the project? We could bring in architects, we could bring in the construction manager to answer questions. It's up to you if you want to do that at that point. And we'd like to go forward with putting information on our website and start to populate that as well, so that there's a resource for immediately for community to go to and see what's going on.
And the buzzwords for this, if the committee asks you what are you doing, we're calling it the warm and dry project, roofs and boilers.
My general feeling on it is, first I want to thank Superintendent and John and the project managers, because we had an awful lot of discussion on trying to get as much needed work done as we could, and keep with the conservative nature of our district, not to have a tax impact. We recognize that every dollar spent is taxpayer money, but we've always strived very hard not to have a tax impact, which it looks like we've done it once again. I feel we move forward. We spent an awful lot of time in a couple of meetings going through it last year, and I think the newsletter out to the district did a good job. I don't think there's any more needed explanation. I will not bring in architects. At this point, I think it's time to go. It's go time.
Yeah, the only thing I would bring up is if there is any additional economic impact beyond what we've budgeted, right? it now has been 12 months or 18 months since we even started talking about this, and the numbers may or may not fit. So I'm with Jim. I think we go, but we also, I think, also want to be informed with what the new bids are, what those pieces are. Not an exhaustive measure, top line sort of stuff, just to make sure we're going to get what we expect to get with the money spent that is available.
And those numbers, that $23 million is built in with, the work really won't take place for probably 2 years from now.
Yep.
So they do build the contingencies into that and escalation costs, and they know things are going to increase over the years. So a lot of that is built into their numbers to start
Okay.
with.
And just to make sure the public knows about it, because I know the board has spent their due diligence in learning this, it's when you approve a project for 23 million, if bids come in higher, we cannot accept them. We cannot spend more than 23 million, and that's where there'd have to be a change in scope or rebid or something, and that's the information that we would give you, because we can't spend more than 23 million, period.
And a good example of when the bids come in a little lower and we do well, the road behind us, a lot of parking lot work that we've done over this past summer is really leftover work from the athletic field across the street. The bids came in a little better than we thought, and when we have money left over, we can do some other good things that we have and need to get done as well.
But those are all things on building condition surveys, so it's not like, ooh, what would be nice to do? These are all pre-planned, health, safety, structural, and they're all within the scope. So when we did the scope for that project, we said we'd be doing parking lots. So that's why we picked what we did, because it was in what was presented to the public.
And the state aid looks at that building condition survey, and that's the basis for them giving us aid and payment for these things. If it's not on that building condition survey, they use that as evaluation that it's something that has to be done. That's why they provide aid to us.
Okay. That's it.
Okay, moving on to number 7, recognition of guests for agenda items only. I don't believe we have any. Okay. We're going to move on to the consensus agenda, for this discussion of the consensus agenda. And just the basic purpose of the consent agenda is to act upon routine manners in an expeditious manner. Items placed on the consent agenda are determined by the board president and vice president in cooperation with the superintendent, and are those which are considered common to the operation of the district and normally require no special board discussion or debate. Board members have the ability and the responsibility of reviewing the consent agenda ahead of time. A board member may request any item on the consent agenda be removed and inserted at an appropriate place on the regular agenda. The president will present the initial motion, followed by a request for a second motion, and then the vote. Before we go on to the next step, I just want to remind that Bob will not be voting on this consent agenda.
So backing up real quick to make sure we have a discussion on some of the agenda items. Number one, since you brought up Bob, I'll do that first. Thank you for being your volunteer for football. He's also volunteers for wrestling. If the board would like, we could modify whatever number that is, 16.13, so we actually accept his volunteer for football and wrestling at this one, which would mean he would not have to abstain at a future meeting from voting. So we'll need a motion to make that modification to 16.13, and Bob, do not make that motion. And the other one, we did have a question from a board member on 17.1 that has to do with a transportation contract that I think everyone looked at the number and went, oh. So John was going to update us on information. He did reach out to the transportation department to make sure everything he remembered, because he saw that too and asked questions about it when it came across the desk. All yours, John.
So this is for summer special education transportation for programs that run during the summer. There were 2 students involved in this one that go to an off-site BOCES location in North Collins. We post positions for the summer mid-June, and we give our drivers always the first chance to do those runs for us, and we use our own buses and everything like that. We had about 9 runs that we knew we had coming into summer. They were posted. We received confirmation from about 12 employees. Now, that seems like we have it covered, but each of those bus runs, because they're special education, needs a bus driver and a attendant on them. So 12 does not cover all those runs. So we did still make calls, and they did actually get 16 employees by actively going out and asking employees to help us in the summer. And we did get 4 more, so we did get 60 employees, but we were still short for that one run that we couldn't staff ourselves. We had the buses, we had the equipment, but we just didn't have the people that could do it. So
They wanted to do it.
yes, and it's optional in the summer. It's not mandatory that they have to do work in the summer. So based on that, we went to an outside contract with a company to do that run. I think since I've been here, maybe we've done 2 contracts with outside companies. We do parent contracts sometimes for transportation of students. That's different, but using outside bus and driver, it doesn't happen very often. It's just something we had to do in this case.
And there was other questions in there about where we are with staffing for transportation and how often the transportation supervisor, head bus driver, and maybe even the transportation clerk are driving. Dave, do you have information on that, or John?
It's about, again, everything changes quite a bit there. With staffing, you never know from day to day who can be out and who's in. Sub drivers, it's hard to have a strong sub list because there's such demand out there for drivers. So trying to have someone who's just as a sub only, often they don't last long in that capacity. We're either promoting them into a driver job or they're going somewhere else if there's a full-time job available. So having a good, strong sub list has been very challenging. But on a typical month, our office staff is out driving, they think about 1 or 2 days a month that they're really all out. But when that happens, we do have someone at the garage who's answering the phone and monitoring the radios. So there's never a part where that's not manned or by somebody.
Yeah, I'm just concerned, like, if there was, like, an accident or something that people needed to get to where a supervisor would need to be there. It seems like a
Yes.
safety issue to have people out of pocket driving, even if it is just 1 to 2 days a week or a month.
Certainly not ideal, we don't want to do it, but we've just had to do it.
And I guess,
And to answer that, and I think that's a good specific one to answer about accidents, if there is one. I go to the accidents, the SRO goes, the building principal goes, John will go, Dave will go.
It's kind of an all hands
So
on
even
deck
if
thing,
he's
yeah.
driving, there are some times where I get there and just because of, even if he's in the office, he's busy in the office, so I'll go there. They don't go up, so we have all the accidents always covered from someone there, and then they have another driver that, or a mechanic that's able to drive a bus, bring the bus there, and then the driver gets on there and the mechanic takes care of the broken one.
because to me, it just seems like even though we can create very nice videos to try to entice more people to come drive bus for Iroquois, it seems like there's a shortage.
Yes.
And I don't know, like, I mean, because when I saw and it was in the public content, or it was in the agenda itself, $648 a day, I was like, that's got to be a typo. There's no way in the world to transport 2 students.
But you have a driver, you have an attendant, you have 2 people, the contractor probably pays them for 7 or 8 hours for that day
Yeah.
because they're doing both
Yeah.
runs in the afternoon.
And I'm just concerned that could we end up in a situation because we don't have enough drivers, maybe we don't have competitive enough pay, maybe, or I don't know, to retain people. Like, I'm just concerned that we might end up having to contract out more during the school year, and we're going to be forced to do that.
And when I started here, we'll say 2006, we consistently had runs contracted. We bid them out, we had so many miles, so many price, and we've been able to bring all of that back in-house. So we've been through there. From that price, you can see why it's, our transportation does a great job of transporting students at a reasonable price for the community. We do have negotiations coming up. Dave is watching what other districts are doing because they're negotiating now, so their prices are going up, so we're dropping in our standings of where we are for how much we're paying our drivers. So I fully imagine that will be a conversation. At that time, we already do talk to it. I want to keep the drivers here. I want to keep paying them fairly, and I want to keep the runs in-house so this doesn't happen, and that's why you put out bids for ones to cover. But if something happens, at some time a student moves in that might need, I think we have, how much did Danny tell me?
I want to say 5 wheelchair buses now, and I can remember a time where we had none, and we were discussing whether we should buy one. And so if there was to be another one, a student moving in need when they can't fit in a run with our thing, there could be something come on, knock on wood. They do an amazing job there of keeping runs covered.
And for next week, Wednesday, we have all the drivers that we need to cover all the runs that we have.
But we don't have any extra to
But
add runs or
there aren't
new
extras, and
things.
when, if
Yeah.
different issues come up and people have to be out for 3-4 days for unexpected things, that's when we have the problems, really. It's unexpected things like that.
And just a big bird's eye view on this. This is a problem. It's throughout the state. It's, Buffalo is why they're using the FTA. The governor talked about paying parents to do it. So this, we are in a much better situation than a lot of districts, but this is I don't want to say nationwide because I don't know that, but statewide, this is a big concern.
Yeah.
I just want to make sure that
And I want to say we're teeter-tottering, wind blows one way or the other. I could be back in 2 weeks and saying, okay, we have trouble. We still don't have everything covered exactly how we want it for length of runs. But right now, we're getting everyone to where they need to go.
So you have, just to summarize, you have all of the bus runs covered with internal resources currently?
For the upcoming year, yes.
For the upcoming year, okay.
Yes.
And you have an option to exercise contracts to make sure that nothing gets disrupted at I'll bet
Yeah.
most likely a higher cost.
At a higher cost, yeah, because they are struggling for drivers
Especially
too.
now.
So like last year,
Yeah.
we were trying to get some more runs in.
Yep.
And we reached out to companies and they said, no, we do not have anyone for you. So therefore we had to extend some runs. Or you might hear if you have students in here that typically these students don't ride on bus 352, but today they did.
Yep.
And that's why.
So we merge, we either have the supervisors and the mechanics drive if people call in sick,
Yeah.
or we merge runs, and both of those things would be done before we contract out.
Yes.
Is that true?
Yeah, yeah,
I'd be
because if someone's out sick for a day, you really
Yeah.
can't contract for a day because there's a process that has to go through. They have to hire the person, make sure they know the run and so
Yeah.
on.
And
If
that's,
they're out for 3 months, then that might be something you could do if they have people available, but we're even having trouble with them, for them having people in trouble.
so when's their is it next year is their contract year? Like,
This year we negotiate with the IFA, next year we negotiate with the CSEA.
okay. I just don't want to be in a situation where we have to pay
Yeah.
contract out.
And-
To me, it seems like we
Well,
have
and that's
a
one
risk
thing
now.
too, where Dave is watching and contacting other people, I don't want to steal his thunder, but with their new prices, is that solving the problem? And the answer, Dave's shaking his head no already. That is not solving their problem with drivers. Drivers in Western New York,
It's not an Iroquois, like Jim was saying, it's not specific just to Iroquois, it's
Yeah,
statewide.
I understand that.
Yeah.
We're having trouble finding drivers, so everybody's working to try and fix that and solve that.
Yeah, and that seems to be more of a nationwide thing as well. One question I do have, emergency response plan, whether it's a contract or internal, all of that's handled. I know you had mentioned, as you were talking, that it's all hands on deck if there is. I just want to make sure that training or any of those pieces are addressed when you do have contracted work.
yeah, they all have the requirements of what they have to go through. So when we hire somebody, we have our requirements that they must meet.
Okay.
So like, how you keep track of the students who are on the bus, who you call, who you report it to, the words you use.
So I think the last question, I know you're not going to solve it here, but I think it's interesting. And what is that tipping point, right? What's that tipping point where we may have to look at the business model a little more creatively? I mean, hiring more, and to your point, just paying more may or may not solve it. Just to kind of keep it on the radar, to say, what is that tipping point to say?
I would say we're looking at it creatively every week.
Every day.
We're at it, Keith. That's a question I would ask because those are conversations John has a lot more of, Dave has a lot more of with transportation about what to do for drivers. Bus attendants a little bit, but it's more drivers. It's a constant monthly conversation all year.
And it's really a shout out to the transportation department because, Eric and Danny Lynn in that office, they just do an amazing job. Everybody from the top all the way down just, pull together and work together to make it work and make things happen, so.
And also, shout out to them huge, but also a thank you to coaches, the athletic department, because they don't get the buses that they need sometimes. They have to double teams up. You have to wait. You can't have the bus when you want it because we don't have the drivers that they can have it when they
And
want
then
it. They have to
how
wait.
often are we merging runs, I guess?
I
Because if
would
that's a
have to go
high
and
number,
ask them
that's,
that question. It's not daily because I hear the announcements.
yeah.
Being in the II, but it'll happen 3-4 times a year, I'll say. But again, that's kind of an estimate.
Because then you're
from where it was
impacting
last year.
families, right?
Pardon?
And then you're impacting families where,
It's a little
merging-
longer, yeah.
Yeah,
And I think on this one in particular, if it was just a matter, and please don't take these numbers exacting, of paying $2 more hours, $3 more, or $5 more an hour, that's not gonna solve the problem. It's a true supply and demand issue, and the supply does not exist. So it's gonna continue to be getting creative. And the forecast, if you look into this issue, the forecast is it's not gonna rectify itself anytime in the near future. So we're gonna have to continue to juggle the ball. It's just what it is. And I think what's gonna happen is, I'm just gonna, like a district down the street will raise their rates, and everyone will raise with it, because you can't be the lowest paid. So that's not really the fear, it's just, we're gonna have to manage through it.
and then in like 1708 and 1709, it says parent transportation contract extension. So that's where we're actually hiring an adult of some sort to
So-
transport, what,
New York state law allows us to hire parents to drive in special circumstances.
okay,
So therefore, if there's, and by all means, this is not for anyone that's in here, these contracts, but
Yeah.
I'm going to say there's a huge medical condition where they need some special drug or seizures or something.
Okay.
And we can work with that parent, and if they're willing to, they would drive their child to school rather than us sending a special bus there with a nurse. And so
Makes sense.
therefore, it's cheaper to pay them than a driver and a nurse on the bus to go there and pick them up.
Okay.
So that's helpful. And plus, to find nurses that go on it, that's where we're contacting out
Okay.
too, to find nurses to go on bus, because nurses are in high demand.
okay.
And reimbursement is like IRS reimbursement rate. It's-
Yeah.
it's-
And so by all means, it's not an option for any parent, so, sorry, Henry, you have kids coming to school, we're not going to pay you to bring them.
Yeah, and I just want to mention, thanking, Eric and Danny, they do an amazing job, but really thanking the individual bus drivers that take their time, take the additional runs, pick up, adjust their schedules. I really appreciate that, and also notice that it really takes a community. Parents are, chipping in as well. So it's not a solve, but also it does not go unnoticed. And so thank you for the bus drivers that, adjust schedules to make it happen, because it is important.
Okay,
Thank you for asking, because that's, I'm sure other people were questioning that number.
on the consent agenda, at this point, I will make the motion under withdrawal and add to modify 16.13, which is for Robert Berry, to extend his approval for football and to wrestling.
I'll second.
All in favor? It shows 5 in favor, none opposed, so, and 1 abstain. Okay. Is there any other request to withdraw an item?
To withdraw?
Yeah.
No, I just had a comment.
Go ahead.
You'll see in the agenda, I want to just thank Dr. Rich Violante, within there to his service and dedication to the students for all these years. Yep. And we have several folks joining us as long-term subs. We got some new faces that'll be more on a permanent basis here at Iroquois. So welcoming Maria Worthling, joining us in health in high school. Kelly McGarry, who's joining us in music in the intermediate building. Christine Zietler, who will be joining me in HR, and Olivia Walowski joining us as a teacher aide over at Wales. So welcoming some more permanent faces here at Iroquois.
Thank you. To withdraw any item? Okay, is there a request to add an item? Okay, I will make the motion to approve consensus agenda 10.01 through 17.16. Can I have a second? Okay, second by Heather. All in favor? 5 in favor, none opposed, 1 abstain. The agenda and motion carries. No, we just modified it.
Just modified it.
And then we do have a guest who would like to talk, Jeff Mockery.
We're gonna get you a mic, wait a
We'll
second.
get
We gotta let the public hear you. Sorry.
And Mr.
I know how you feel, but I get one every one time too.
Then Mr. Mockery, normally it's about 3 minutes, usually around 2 minutes. I'll just let you know you're at 2 minutes.
Yeah, absolutely. Good evening, Board of Education members and Mr. Schofield. My name is Jeff Mockery. I live at 1701 West Avenue in Marilla. I'm the father of Dylan, who's a junior at Canisius High School this coming school year, and Bianca, who will be an 8th grader at the middle school. Thank you for the opportunity to speak this evening to address a serious concern regarding our son's transportation, Dylan, which currently stands as not acceptable for another academic school year. During his freshman year, his ride was 45 to 50 minutes home, a reasonable length of time for a 30-minute commute from Canisius to home, and what we expected to continue. Last year, during his sophomore year, the ride was regularly exceeding 1.5 hours, close to an hour and 45 minutes, and up to 2 hours. This is far beyond what is reasonable for a student's daily transportation. The proposed route for this year is 1 hour and 15 minutes under ideal conditions. Based on past experience, we are confident that that will not be the case. Another unresolved issue, one that you kind of spoke to this evening, rests within the transportation department, not us as taxpaying parents, is the inconsistency of the ridership from other schools. On most days last year, the bus waited 20 to 30 minutes at one particular school for one particular student, compounding the unpredictability. As full-time working parents, this creates significant challenges because we cannot rely on determine or when our son will be picked up at the Iroquois campus. We even inquired about the possibility of door-to-door drop-off, since we live only a quarter mile outside the required distance, but that was denied, understood. These concerns were raised last year with Mr. Schofield and Mr. Nagel. Mr. Schofield, thank you for your time. They were communicative, quick to response, but at this time, and during those conversations via phone calls and emails, copies of which I've sent to you this evening in your district accounts, so you can see the trail of this problem. It's just not a one-time me coming here this evening. The problems would be addressed and not be repeated for this upcoming 25-26 school year. In fact, the concern was brought to the attention of district administration back in January of last year, yet we received no updates until I reached out just again last week for this upcoming school year. Out of patience and good faith, we made the accommodations last year, but continuing in this manner for another year is just not feasible. State education clearly states the amount of time should be reasonable, and I quote, the amount of time should be reasonable. What we have experienced is not reasonable for last year, nor is it equitable when compared to other district and private school students. If the district maintains its ride times...
Just 1 second, I'm not going to stop you. I just would like to ask the board, can we extend the time for Mr. Mockery to... Okay, go
I
ahead.
appreciate that, thank you. I tried to get another 3 minutes.
Nope.
If the district maintains that these ride times are acceptable, we'll have no other choice to pursue remedies with the state education department to ensure compliance and protect our son's right to safe and appropriate transportation. I hope by coming here this evening and tonight, this step can be avoided through a solution-based response, something we have yet to receive from the district administration. In closing, therefore, I'm asking you in your elected positions to use your influence and authority to ensure the matter is resolved. I urge you to work with the administration to find a solution that provides a safe, timely, consistent, and again, I go back to the state law, reasonable transportation. I would ask that you consider this, please. If this was your child, which I know you all have children, would you find it acceptable for them to spend up to 2 hours a day on a bus with unpredictable delays and uncertainty, all while disrupting your daily work schedule of myself and my wife, more so my wife, to be quite honest with you? I don't believe anybody would want this. Thank you for your time this evening and taking this responsibility seriously on behalf of all the students and families that you have to deal with, but more specifically in this case, our son Dylan. We look forward to hearing from you or district administration with a resolution prior to the start of this school year. We just can't have it. I'm sorry. I'm going off script now. It's something that is not acceptable. We both work. There was times literally when he would get there early. He would get there late by half an hour. That's just not feasible. And I do thank Doug again, for the communication, but it needs to be more solution-focused. And I know, I'm in education, I know finding drivers is tough, but this evening, members of this administration just said you have enough. You don't have enough. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have a need for an executive session?
I do not.
Nope.
I do not.
I'm going to make the motion to adjourn. Can I have a second?
Second.
Second by Todd. All in favor? Okay, 6 in favor, none opposed. We adjourn at 8:07 PM. Thank you, everyone.